This is a segment from The Annex, an academic sociology-themed podcast. For more, visit us on the web at theannexpodcast.com. I caught this story on Pope Hat, from Pope Hat on Twitter. A Florida Atlantic University student was arrested for a Twitter post that was deemed to be threatening. The post was purposely written in a dialect, which I'm not going to try to reproduce here, but the student wrote it with a very heavy dialect for effect, I presume. And basically, he was tweeting to his girlfriend, and he said, quote, "I'm going to kill this professor. This is my confession to a premeditated murder in response to a 7 a.m. exam scheduling." And the 20-year-old student was arrested for issuing threats. And someone called the police on him. It might have been the instructor. I don't know. And there have been two reactions to this. One is in support of arresting the student, right? It's uttering threats. That's a crime. There have been incidences of campus violence. And after the fact, everybody would have been asking, well, why didn't anyone report him? But on the other hand, I've heard others argue that he was a black student and that no one would have called the police on a white student and that there's some type of tacit racism at play. So what's your reaction to this story? Like, we know that young people say things that they shouldn't. We know that, like, the threat of violence is something serious. What's the protocol here? Do we automatically call the police? Do we exercise discretion?
First, I think the student erred in that he should have threatened to kill the scheduling office, not the professor. Because it's not the professor's decision.
Oh, that's terrible. But
this
true,
kind of thing
anyway.
something of an administrative role.
I don't get why it's all or nothing, you either get arrested or nothing happens, right? Like, is there not some kind of in-between place where, that the accusation or the statement is followed up on, concerns are raised, the person is talked to, the severity is determined without arresting somebody. And, I don't think that, I think it's hard not to point to the pattern where it does seem that if you are Black and you do things, you're more likely to be arresed.
Well,
right?
What a Canadian response to that, right? Like, does it all have to spiral out of control?
Right.
Well, I don't know, because go, Gabriel, go.
So at UCLA, we have a thing called the Red Folder Initiative, which, they call it the Red Folder Initiative, and they never exactly explain what it is. But you look at it and you're like, oh, this is the Break Glass and Case of Crazy Student package. And, and basically it's a folder they give to every faculty member. And there's obviously an accompanying website because who can find a piece of paper they got in their mailbox 2 years ago?
Right.
And basically, when you encounter a student who is being erratic or threatening or otherwise a problem, you go on there and there's a bunch of numbers you're supposed to call. And I have no idea what the procedure is. I don't imagine it involves the UCPD immediately tackling them.
Right. I mean, on the other hand, like, in a way, Rebecca, I think of your situation, how I would behave in Canada as opposed to here. And like, obviously I'm a Canadian, so maybe I exaggerate the threat of like gun violence in my mind. But, in a place where, anybody can come in with automatic weapons. Well, I guess they had it in Canada too.
For sure. I think about this all the time as a professor with a large class of, young students who are getting grades and things from me, that all it takes is one person who is really upset about something that we could have a situation. I think that could happen here.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, and obviously, if there was a threat like that, then it should be taken really seriously and something should be done and it should be addressed. But I'm not sure that means that you immediately have to go to arresting somebody for doing that.
Yeah, I wonder.
I would want to find out more about what's going on with this young person.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot, like, you'd have to know the student. My first reaction to something like that would to bring them in and lecture them about being of social media use, unless the kid gave me bad vibes to begin with. I guess it always depends, is the moral or the...
Mm-hmm. I think so.
All right.
I think you guys are overestimating how much, realistically, how well do you know all your students? If you have a large lecture.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
Yeah.
Which is why you would have to follow up. which I know that inside our university, there are protocols where they follow up on certainly any instance where a student may tweet something that indicates any kind of potential that they're going to hurt themselves, that there is immediate follow-up if that's detected by the university, right? So presumably you would have a similar follow-up with this kind of situation. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It would. I don't know. It's so much more present on your mind here than it would be on my mind up in Canada. I don't know if it's a country thing or not.
Well, I mean, you guys have had way more shootings than we have, right? So that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and sometimes they do involve students who are upset about their grades or whatever. I mean, at UCLA, one of my colleagues in STEM was murdered by a former graduate student who was angry about.
Oh, I remember that.
Something about his academic career, and the whole campus was locked down for an afternoon.
Good. All right. For more, visit us on the web, theannexpodcast.com.